It's another Manly Monday, and this Manly Monday, oh God, I'm tired. But we're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. This was a request that somebody made a while ago, actually, and I made a note of it. And I'm expanding the topic. The request was when to walk away from a partner, but I thought about it, and it's bigger than that for me because romantic relationships are subcategories of relationships in general, and the there are different types of connection, and I do think that's important to have. You need your platonic friends as much, if not more, than you need a stable romantic relationship. In fact, I think good friends are essential. A romantic relationship is a nice to have. And so I think that even though the original question was specifically about romantic partners, I do also think things like a roommate, close friend circle, um, family, especially family of origin, all these all these things, we undervalue how important they are to our happiness and sense of validation and sense of fulfillment and sense of whole personhood, especially for men. We know that men's social groups dwindle as they get older. And but I'm hearing from a lot of guys too that even though they have friends, they feel like the friendship's very one-sided. They feel like they're the only ones that are investing in them. And as hard as it is to walk away from longtime friendships, sometimes you have to move on so that you can, attract better people for you, and not continuing to throw good energy after something that's not mutual, you know. So we'll get into that. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K, or the men's groups via the GoFundMe. There will be more this week about how you can get involved with those. We are rolling it out very, very slowly. I did invite a few people last week who were really struggling on social media. And I said, look, would you like an invite to the Discord so that you can talk to people who will give you a chance? And every single one of them that I invited that way, they said, wow, this is a really welcoming group. And I was so pleased to hear that took work. And that's the thing. A healthy social environment is an investment. And when we talk about the biopsychosocial model of mental health, we talk a lot about therapy, which is the psyche, about mindset, right? Especially with men. It's all about the mindset stuff, the self-talk. But that's only one pillar of three, right? The other is biological. Sufficient, like healthy food, sufficient quality sleep, adequate rest, waking rest, and exercise, and, the things you need to feel physically good. You can't really feel emotionally and mentally good if you physically feel like shit. Welcome to my last 2 weeks. Oh my God. It's fall. Everything's dying. I feel like shit. I finally got my prescription antihistamines renewed. They're not quite working yet. They always need about a week. And so I just bleh. And I the people around me, I can say, guys, I'm feeling shitty this week, which I have to do because of the various health conditions. Uh, the people in my life have to understand that. People who don't, people continue to push. Every time somebody pushes me, they push me away regarding that. I don't do nagging. Um, I want people who want me around, not people who demand I be around. And when people start expecting things from me instead of recognizing that this is something I'm choosing to do, not an agreement that I have to do it, then we start getting into that territory of when to back away. And I think part of the loneliness epidemic in men and why a lot of men feel like they don't have close friends that they can trust, never mind a romantic partner who is truly a partner, meaning there's a give and take, is because we teach men to ignore their needs, violate their own boundaries, and we teach that it's noble to let other people violate your boundaries. You Slimer's giving me mad support in the background. And Cthulhu's horror spreading. You may notice that's not man spreading, that's horror spreading, right? Eldritch horror spreading. Crawling chaos, right? Yeah. I'm in a mood because I'm not feeling great. Um, when you don't set boundaries effectively, you don't give people the chance to show you that they care about you and are willing to put in some work for you. And yeah, most of the people I work with are male. And so I see this again and again and again. Self-sacrifice is wonderful, but not to the point that you're bleeding out. And I do highly recommend that before you cut off a relationship, you actually give people a chance to be there for you, like really be there for you, which means being somewhat vulnerable, which can be extremely difficult. But here's the thing, it may be embarrassing and very painful to be rejected in this regard. Trust me, I know. But the nice thing is when you do walk away, when you do cut the connection, you can do it, sure, in the knowledge that you gave the other person every reasonable chance and they made choices, right? It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't that they didn't know. You laid it on the table. They wouldn't work with you. And compromise is not capitulation. These are going to be very, very nuanced because, you know, obviously if somebody's violent towards you, you can leave. But I'm talking the more subtleties here, right? If you constantly feel like you're capitulating, meaning you're just giving in 100% and the other person isn't giving anything, that's not good. Compromise means you have the things you're firm on, the things you're not. You give on the things you can give in exchange for the things that are important to you. And the big socialization issue I've seen over and over and over again is, since I've started observing this stuff, is people seem to want the other person to take the risk first. They won't do it themselves. And they have their reasons. But the reality is when you're never putting it on the line until somebody is the bigger person first, you're being a bad friend. And I'm not talking huge risks. I'm talking Little things, like if somebody wants you to read their story, at least give it a look, and find something nice to say about it. My God, I do not understand friends of guys. Women don't do this to each other. This is a guy thing or a thing people do to guys. Because women do this to men, but they know damn well usually not to do it to other women. They're savage in their criticism instead of recognizing that this is going to hurt. You sometimes have to be tough, but phrase it in a way that makes it clear that you still believe in them. Like I'm just giving you my opinion because I do believe in you. I do believe in your talent. I just think here, and here was a miss, for instance. And that's true of anything. I had to have a really tough discussion with somebody lately who did something that I really didn't agree with. They covered the work of somebody who had badly bullied isn't strong enough. It was straight up online harassment. It was a brigade. It was not okay, to say the least. And this person covered the person who did the bullying stuff because they wanted to show they were impartial as a critic. And I said to them, I can't support what you did because there's being impartial as a critic, and then there's, giving publicity to shitty people who attacked a mutual friend. And I said to him, I don't agree with what you did. I think you're a good person. And I don't think you meant anything bad. But I don't agree with what you did. I'm not going to agree with what you did. Please don't involve me in those things. He took it pretty well, which is good. But that's a friendship. That's the two-way, right? I was willing to give him the hard truth when it was necessary. He was willing to listen. We had a discussion about it. I wasn't telling him to change. I was just telling him why I had an issue with it. And friends will tell you when they think you're fucking up. In a way that is still validating you as a human. It's always very important to tell your buddies, look, I care about you. I think, you're smart and you're great. And I think you should, I think we need to tell each other those things more. Those of us who are guy socialized, we need to tell each other things more. There's a certain look I get now, this sort of side eye from people when I pay them an honest compliment because they're so not used to it. And they've told me that people in the past, they only compliment them when they're trying to manipulate them. And it's like, holy shit. Yeah, probably. And so now that I've talked about, when to have the rough conversation, but not cut off the friendship. Here's the times I think you should consider cutting it off. One, when they don't love the parts of you that you love about yourself. If your creativity is very important to you and your friends are constantly telling you to give it up, get a real job, or your family or whatever, are they really being a friend? Are they really accepting you for you? Helping you balance is one thing, but insisting you should give up a part of who you are, that's not somebody who's helping you get where you want to go. That person may be a perfectly decent person who is not good for you. And maybe it's not a question of never speak to them again, but it's a question of spend less time on them, spend more time on the people that give you support, because you want to play to your strengths instead of just constantly trying to improve your weaknesses. There's only so much improvement of weakness somebody can do. There are just certain things that someone is never going to be good at. For me, it's that feminine wiles stuff of, uh, I won't even bother. It'll be embarrassing. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I can't do it. And anybody that gets on me about being unfeminine, you want somebody to be dead to me, mentally and emotionally, that's one of the fastest ways to do it. Because that's not me. I like inner Kratos. I know it's amusing. I know it's tough to take. I like that steel. I like that people know where they stand with me. And, part of that is if somebody's constantly, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? That fawn response, I start thinking, what did they do? Because that's not me. I am not somebody that does bullshit, passive aggressive stuff. Sometimes people don't listen, but I will always let someone know that I'm not pleased with what they've done. If I'm not pleased, and I mean the other thing about that is I do judge after a point, but I'm pretty slow to judge somebody as like morally wrong on something. I have to have an affirmative reason for that. So obviously, I'm not going to do well around, political extremists who knee jerk judge people over stupid things to establish a very clear in group out group hierarchy. That's a get out of here for me, because I know how bad it is for people's mental health to be in an environment like that. It is very important to be able to disagree with your friends. It's extremely important. Um, Friends fight, loved ones fight. The more close you are to somebody, the more likely it is that there's going to be fights sometimes. They don't have to be huge, right? There can be disagreements that don't become fights, and there can be fights that don't become deal breakers. Sometimes people are just going through an agonizingly difficult time. There are some people, oh my God, that I know, and it's hard on me because that's when I start going, I wish I had more money. I wish I was independently wealthy so I could just solve these problems. Because there are people who are very close to me right now who are just getting their asses kicked by life through no fault of their own. And I wish I could do more, but I can't, except, be there and just not only be there for them to talk, but also recognize that, yeah, they're going to blow a few deadlines. They're going to not be as communicative as usual. They're not going to be themselves because it is legitimately hard. And that's something that if somebody's not doing for you, maybe put a little more distance in. Um, no one should be judged as a person by their worst 20% of days, right? That nobody's themselves on their worst day. Everybody slips, everybody has moments. And that's my whole issue with the way the internet does things. Just because the most extreme opinions tend to dominate on the internet in a way that they don't in real life. And I do think that people who spend a lot of time online, it the way people deal with each other gets skewed, which is why I'm trying to create an online community that isn't like that. That, you'll be judged by your willingness to get along with others and the effort you put in instead of necessarily your opinions. Um, but that's the thing. I do think consider walking away from any relationship if there is ongoing abuse. Everybody's abusive sometimes. And again, that's why I say don't judge anybody by their worst 20%. You know, everybody has moments they're not proud of. I do. You do. Don't trust somebody who can't admit that. You know, we can't cancel a person for a couple of bad days, especially if they seem sincerely dedicated to doing better. That's the important thing, you know. Um it'll take time for the sting to go away, and certain things cannot be overcome without work. But it's not feasible to cut someone off the minute you get a red flag. That's the problem with coming at the world from a place of ongoing trauma. If you are so overextended that you just can't handle anymore, you know, um that's that you're not going to be able to form connections. Um but if it is ongoing, and if people keep doing the same thing again and again and again, um that's um that's a sign of a problem. And it can be hard to know when it's abuse and when it's not. And that's why it's good to have people as sounding boards. Um, but if it's making you feel shame, not like you did something wrong, because we all do something wrong sometimes, but if it's not just I did a bad thing, it's I'm, worthless, deviant, um, no one will love me, that kind of, I'm not good to anybody, that indicates you've been abused. Because everybody has something good about them. Even the worst person I can think of, I can point to a talent they have, you know? Um, the ongoing abuse is something you owe it not just to yourself, but also your other friends to excise from your life. That can be difficult when you live with somebody because of financial reasons. A lot of people cannot leave their physical environment because of money, especially now. And that's why I'm saying boundaries in your head and your heart, even though, you have to keep a roof over your head. Um, Lack of boundaries is another thing. A person can be the greatest person in the world, but if they do not have boundaries, they will keep fucking you over. It's the reason I call, red flag on characters like Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3, Starlight from The Boys, and a particular character on Gen V, The Boys spinoff, who is a spoiler, so I'm not going to mention it right now. But you can guess the type of character it is based on the other two. And I hear so many guys going, "Oh, but she can't help it. Oh, but I can fix her. I can save her." No. People are adults. Adults make choices. If somebody is constantly hurting you, yes, they can help it. If somebody's constantly screwing with your head, yes, they can help it. If someone is constantly or repeatedly withholding information that would have changed a decision you made, and they're withholding information to control the decision you made. They can help that. That's a conscious decision. And if you really think they can't help it, that they're not a fully formed adult capable of making conscious decisions and practicing some self control and doing the tough stuff, you can think they're a good person, but they're not good for you. You can. And I am tired of seeing guys get their lives destroyed. And I've seen this in both. I've seen this in heterosexual couples, same-sex couples. I've seen this in cis people, trans people. This, across the board, men seem uniquely vulnerable to this because it's something that, the closer to heterosexual you get, the closer to cisgender you get, the closer to heteronormative you get, the less you're able to get away with this. We infantilize people who are not heteronormative, cisgender, and male. And it's wrong. We shouldn't be doing it. And I say this because of part of the reason I ended up with trauma is I was subjected to, because I was very tomboyish. And because I didn't do the, oh, I'm small, please help me, I can't help it, I'm so sad, I'm so sorry, I was only trying to help. I don't do that shit. And I see the people who do it get away with shit. But are they really getting away with it? No, they're losing themselves. And if someone is losing themselves, if they are drowning, they will take you down with them. You can't save someone like that in real life. If you are constantly having to make other people's choices for them because they can't make them for themselves, they are being increasingly robbed of their dignity. It's not healthy. If somebody's trying to fix you, not support you in things you want to change, but tell you what you have to change and the timeline that you have to change on, you have the right to not agree to those terms. If someone expects you to fix them, that's a big problem because you will fail. You can't fix other people. They can only fix themselves. That's why I say be the hero of your own story and not anyone else's. Being bored in a relationship or being bored in a friendship or just missing each other, no, that's not a reason to end it or back away. But if you feel like you're consistently the only one investing, and this is something I hear from a lot of guys, that they're always the one to call, they're always the one to organize things, that's valid. And you have the right to say, I want better. I have this one friend who we meet for lunch every so often. I go down to where he is sometimes. He comes up to where I am sometimes. A lot of times we meet in the middle. But sometimes I pay, sometimes he pays, and it feels very much like an adult friendship because we're not taking each other for granted. And even when we don't see each other for a while, because life just happens, we're right back to the same old rhythms because that respect and that dignity is there. And this can be very hard for introverts because you feel like you're bothering someone. So if you do have an aversion to reaching out, just if somebody contacts you, just express appreciation that they made the effort, that that takes work because it is so hard for you to do. Even that is enough to make a person feel appreciated and not taken for granted. Expressing appreciation, especially if you're an introvert, is extremely important because we do forget birthdays. We do not reach out as much as we probably should because, oh God, it's terrifying. We can do it in other ways. But the number one thing, and this is why I say, take the little risk before you decide to cut someone off, so you're sure, is if they won't work it out. If something is important to you and you want a resolution to something and they keep dodging you, avoiding you, deflecting and projecting, if you need to solve the problem and they won't, it's an unsolvable problem. And you have the right to say it's a deal breaker. And again, you might not be able to, it might not be right away. You have to be careful, especially with introverted people, that you don't push someone into overwhelm. But if somebody says, look, I'm overloaded, I need to resume this, can we try X day? Fine. Or X time. Give me 20 minutes, whatever. That's fine. Don't battle until you break. But if someone can't sit down with you and go, okay, what do you need? What do I need? How can we bridge this gap? The gap's not going to get bridged. And you deserve that. You deserve somebody who's not just running away and slamming doors. You deserve somebody who's not exploding in a shower of name calling whenever you express that something caused you pain. You deserve that. Everybody deserves that. Men deserve that. Women deserve that. Non-binary people deserve that, because we're all human beings. And we get so stuck in this gender binary and gender roles and gender performance. And that is also very real. It is not just squishy bits between our legs. The shit we lock men into in terms of self-sacrifice is a form of indoctrination that makes it so hard to know whether something is healthy for us or not. So hopefully this helps. If there's any further questions, please I'll address it. I'll address it in a follow-up. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK for people working through this stuff, or the men's group, GoFundMe. Let's make friends and work through things together. Thanks for watching Manly Mondays.